Welcome to this LEX18 Digital Conversation. I'm Davidson. So how well do you know the history of Kentucky? Well, thanks to the work of the Kentucky Historical Society, the markers that we see, also known as history on a stick, in front of homes and other spaces, can help bring this rich history to life. Joining me now is Scott Alvey. He's the Executive Director of the Kentucky Historical Society. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, no. It's exciting when you see these markers that have information in front of houses, and you're walking down the street and you're like, wow, this is like living history. How cool a job do you have?
I have a very cool job. Thank you for asking. Yeah. It's a joy every day when we get to go into work because we get to be the keepers for Kentucky history. And I shouldn't say just the keepers, but we get to share it with everybody, and we get to encourage people to tell their history. The markers are a perfect program for doing that. The marker program has been around for 50, 60 years, and it has gone through a transitional kind of piece, but now we focus a lot in on getting community conversations to come out through the markers. And it's, when I've done some marker dedications, I kind of equated to an early version of Twitter.
Yeah.
You get so much space to put history on a little thing.
Exactly.
But yet that history goes much deeper than that. And we all know that, and so how can we find ways to help encourage that to be deeper, but it's also part of telling that community story that comes out.
Well, let's start at the beginning. How do you find these nuggets of, because, you know, we know the big ones, you know, the State House and things of that nature, but the other parts and pieces that are tiny and minute that make up the rich fabric of Kentucky history.
Right. I'll jump back a little bit too, because the early part of the program was simply somebody just decided that there needed to be a history told here, and they would mark these spots, right. Literally. With the history. As the programs evolved, the community gets buy-in, and you can really get into how minor or small is that community and how wide is that community. Right. But they apply. They give us an application, and the application should show that there's a good history to be told here with historical evidence and documentation, but it also needs to show that the community believes in this history and that they are willing to tell this history and support that history. It takes quite some time to get a marker involved, and some folks have to take several passes at getting it approved. So there is an approval process. We have an independent committee of non-historical society staff that review the applications, make recommendations, all the way down into those very few characters that they get to put onto the marker itself. Wow,
this is a lot more involved than I guess the average person would think.
And it has to be. You know, if you think about this, and even in the progression over time, that these are things that are cast into metal.
Yeah.
And so making sure that buy-in and that history is valid. And we see that at times those narratives change. And so we have markers out there that tell a different narrative, and we hear conversations that come about from those markers. So it's a very serious process, but it's also very rewarding.
Oh, sure. I guess each day is brand new for you because you just don't know what maybe you're going to see, huh?
Yes, because you're dealing with people who are passionate about their history, and so are we. And so to get to come in every day and work with these people that have that passion, sometimes it's overzealous, and you have to rein that in. But for the most of the time, we get to work with people that are just helping to push us to tell a great Kentucky history story.
But it's so much more than a marker. Tell me more about this society and what you guys are doing.
Sure. We're a statewide organization, so we hope that you see us in just about all parts of the state. Right now, if you see a history mobile, a tractor trailer rolling around the state, celebrating 100 years of Kentucky high school basketball,
oh, wow.
That would be us. It's a partnership with the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And so we're going around during the basketball season, so that's a program we do. You also would see us as a museum. So if you're in Frankfort, we have three buildings. The Thomas D. Clark Center for Kentucky History, which is our main and our newer building, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary in April. And that houses some exhibit spaces that we do, changing exhibits and things. It has our research library, so we have researchers from around the world that come in to study using our materials that we're making accessible, all the way to family genealogists and family historians that are coming to study their past.
Oh, wow.
We also have the old state capitol, the old state house. And that used to be our headquarters. And so when we outgrew that, that moved us into the Thomas D. Clark Center. And that's probably the crown jewel of our collection. It has such a great story to tell, but it also is that space to where we can have great civic conversations and participation, and look forward to finding more programming for the public to come in, not just scholars and academics, but for anybody that has an interest in Kentucky history.
Oh, so if someone were doing a research paper or students wanted to do some retrospect on Kentucky, this would be a resource?
This would be a great resource. We have all that, and don't let me forget, we also have our third element is our Kentucky Military History Museum.
Yes, don't want
So the same elements apply to that they house a lot of research papers, but we also have to find ways to take those collections and that history and make them easily accessible to just about everybody.
Sure.
So that's where it traditionally looks like a museum function, but we work really hard at making sure you can have a personal experience when you go into our museum spaces. And it's not just books on a wall, but how can we actually have a participation with you in the history that you're experiencing.
Wow. If a teacher wanted to bring students, how would they go about doing that?
Best way is to look us up on our website, or give us a call.
Okay.
We have about 20,000 students that come to visit the Thomas D. Clark Center and the Old State Capitol every year. Right. It really ramps up in March, and mostly during the weekdays. But we have all kinds of programs, not just for the field trip aspects, but we also do teacher professional development. So we, to support our teachers who are doing history, Kentucky history, in the classroom, and even beyond that, to look at how we can use inquiry modeling of understanding. We do a lot for history, but it can apply to other disciplines as well.
Well, now, since you're a state organization, do you take donations? Do people make donations?
We have our own private 501c3 foundation, the Kentucky Historical Society Foundation, which is solely to help support the programs and operations of the Kentucky Historical Society. So we take donations of all sizes.
Okay.
We have all the way down from memberships all the way up to our major donors, our Abraham Lincoln Society donors, our lifetime giving of $25,000 or above, and corporate donors, sponsorships, bequests. We receive quite a few folks that are looking at their legacy and how they can support Kentucky history and beyond. So all types.
Is it like Antique Roadshow or one of those shows where you go out and maybe someone contacts you and say, hey, I inherited this or I found this. Can you take a look at it and I'd like to donate it?
Sure. So we just had an example that came across my desk just yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know the lady's name, but she is a descendant of William Gaines of Georgetown, Kentucky. He was the hero of the Battle of Buena Vista.
Okay.
And through some research and things that it came about, that the sword in a portrait of Gaines actually exists in, I believe, Washington State. And so we are currently working to see how we can acquire that sword and that portrait, because she is concerned she doesn't have family for it to go to, and so would like to make sure that sword and that portrait return back to Kentucky.
That kind of gives you goosebumps, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. But most of the time, it doesn't happen that easily.
Right.
A lot of times, it's about relationships. You have these folks that are out there passionate about Kentucky history, and so we have to go out and speak with them and get to know who they are, let them know that we would be good stewards of their items.
Right.
But conversely, on the other end, we have a lot of people who want us to take things, and when we accept things, we take them forever.
Right.
And the responsibility that comes with it. So we are very selective on, is it telling a Kentucky story? Does it have good provenance? You see that on Antiques Roadshow and the other history type shows where they're really digging into the story of the item, because the items tell a powerful story.
Oh, sure.
But if you don't have the provenance and if you don't have that backstory to it, then it's not much more of a prop or things like that. So we have to be very careful about how we go about that, and we're very strategic in how we go looking for certain items in our collection.
You were talking about genealogy, and a lot of people are doing that, and Dr. Henry Louis Gates has Finding Your Roots, and that. Is this a place, if someone wanted to try and trace at least their Kentucky lineage, or would it help them if they started here to go elsewhere with it?
Both.
Oh.
A lot of folks use us as their first steps to get going, and we have a staff that will actually help you through those, give you advice on how to work through that. Right. Our collections are fabulous for doing that. a lot of folks look at history and think about that as this high scholar activity, and it is. Right. But you also have these family historians that are doing history just as well, and we can help support them do that. It culminates, actually, for us, once a year we do the Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall, where we take stories and we finish, it's also an application process where genealogists and family historians will find that they get stuck.
Yes.
And they can't figure out how to get past it.
Yes.
So they can submit to us and to our team their challenge. I've gotten this far, but I can't get any further. Can you help me? I believe the team accepted about 120 applications for this past cycle. They choose 3. And those, they dig in very deeply to them, get their research done, and then we hold an event at the Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall where we reveal the results of that research.
Is this just special to Kentucky, or other states? Do they?
I think a lot of other states do it as well, but you know, it's that thrill of the chase, right? I mean, that's a lot of us that got into the history field is because there's that burning question or inquiry that you're trying to go after, and so it's the research and to whatever topic that might be. And there's a process to it, and so how can we help facilitate that process? And Ancestors Town Hall is an awesome way when it bubbles up, and you just see the connection to the stories, and we've seen family members reconnected, you know, right there, or the scandals sometimes that do exist within families that they confirm. So it's a lot of fun to watch everybody get their connection back to Kentucky history.
History coming alive. All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for stopping by, and thank you so much for joining us. For more information on the Kentucky Historical Society, give them a call. Their number 502-564-1792, or check out their website. That's history.ky.gov/contact. I'm Dia Davidson. Until next time.